Warning, I'm a machinist and not a welder, but we're going to do some TIG welding in this video. So we're going to take some 4-inch stainless steel pipe and weld it to some stainless steel cam and groove couplings. Now, if you're not familiar, pipe is actually measured on the inside diameter, where tubing is measured on the outside. So these cam and groove couplings have a little ledge down at the bottom or inside of them that you basically set this pipe and knock it down into, and it helps seat everything and hold it in place while you're welding it. Now honestly, I should have tacked this first one on 3 sides at least before I started welding. I started putting a pretty big bead initially, and that's kind of a no-no, because what you'll do is you'll have things move with you if you ain't careful. Now here we've slowed down the video, and you can see the puddle just a little bit right at the really bright light there. Now if you see that glowing red area there, that's where my filler rod is, and I'm just gradually feeding that in as I'm working the torch around, making sure I get a good solid weld there. Now I'm not a good welder by any means. I'm good enough to make sure it sticks, make sure it holds like it should. Anything of that nature as far as leakage and stuff like that, I don't have an issue with. They're not the prettiest, but they do function very well. There's guys out there way better than me. So I'll do a little bit of different things with the TIG torch. In this case, what do you call it, walking the dog or walking the cup. You know, do that a little bit. Sometimes I'll kind of, depending on how my hand sits and how it feels, sometimes I may just hold the torch kind of more stiller and then kind of just work the tip a little bit and filling in around. But it's kind of, for me, it hasn't really made much of a difference. I don't spend enough time welding and practicing. I don't do this daily. I pretty much do this, probably about 5% of my work is welding out of the entire time that I'm working. Most of my stuff is machine work. But I do know how to MIG and I do know how to TIG for the most part, aluminum and steel. I'm not great, but it does the trick. So here we are, we're just gonna kind of work around these tubes. I do want to build a fixture one day, a rotorized fixture, to do things like this. I just don't do it enough to really justify building the thing. I just haven't had the time to fool with it. It's not that an issue of money. I have everything at the shop there to build it with, except for a motor, so it wouldn't cost me that much for a motor and a little speed controller. But I just don't do it enough. So we're going to gradually work ourselves around this stuff here and eventually get to a finishing point where we have all 3 of these done and delivered to the customer. Now these actually are only holding plastic pellets that come through them. There's nothing, no pressurization, no water, no oil, none of that kind of stuff. Nothing is flowing through this other than plastic pellets. So it's really not that critical, but at the end of the day, you know, I would trust this with under pressurization as well. Now, I guess it depends on how much PSI you want to put to it, but for any of the customers around here that I deal with, I would give this to them all day long. And they're happy with the stuff, so like I said, there's a lot better people out there than me. But you see here, I also take, and just because the filler rod's so darn expensive, I'll take my short pieces and I'll weld them onto another longer piece just so I can finish using them all the way up. And there's the finished product. So stick around. Hopefully we'll have some more machining and welding to